Hey, it's Dan here, and I really hope you're doing well. And today I'm going to take just a little bit of your time, precious time, to talk about the looping via a loop pedal and why you need to do it. It's the first thing I want to cover with you guys, all right? So, obviously, if you're anything like me, and I'm sure you are, time is absolutely limited. By the time you've got home from work, you've had a busy day, you're tired, you got the kids to bed, and then you finally have carved out 20 to 30 sweet minutes of guitar playing time. You want to get the most out of that time, right? And this is why I absolutely love to loop, okay? Because if you think about it, let's say my goal was, I'm thinking about the fact that I want to eventually be able to jam with my colleagues, I want to play in front of my family, I maybe even want to, join a dad band and start jamming, okay? These are all possible options, right? So using the looper pedal really helps us get there a lot quicker, right? Because we're doing a lot of things in one, okay? You've only got a very short amount of time, and doing a loop allows you to practice so many things in one go. You can practice your rhythm because you've got to lay down a loop, right? You're practicing your theory because you've got to choose what chords from a key. You're practicing your embellishments over the top. You're practicing your cage system. So if you're not sure what that is, don't worry, we'll get to that later on. Above all else, you really understand what you're doing. You're really putting yourself in the mindset of a creative, improvising musician, okay? Because you're doing it all on the spot, and therefore all of those different elements get practiced as you're doing it. Now, for that reason, it's not the easiest thing to do, so I think a lot of people are put off, but I'm gonna show you 5 really simple steps to get you started with your looping career. So just before we get into that first step, I want you to remember that creativity is not some God-given talent that some people have and other people don't, okay? This is something that you can learn, okay? I promise you, this is something that you can learn. So if you're sitting there going, I just can't, I'm not very creative, I'm not sure I could really do this kind of looping thing, then please just acknowledge that, but just ignore that. Okay, so step 1 seems pretty obvious, but you need to buy the looper. So I just want to give you a really rough guide, 2 key things that I believe you need for a decent looper pedal. Now, the first thing to say is that these are not expensive pedals. They're relatively cheap as far as pedals go, and you don't need to spend loads on some overcomplicated looper to get started with. So I've got 2 loopers here. I've got a Boss Loop Station RC1, and I've got my Ditto looper, which is always on my pedal board. It's the first pedal that goes on my board all the time, okay? So it's really important that both pedals are able to record, a good amount of looping time. So I think the Ditto you can record for 5 minutes in a row, and the Boss you can record for 10 minutes at a time. So you could do 1 loop that's 10 minutes long. Now, of course, that's probably quite excessive, and normally you're probably gonna be doing 30 seconds worth of looping, as you'll see when I do it. So that's the main thing. The first thing is it has a decent amount of time to record. And the second thing is that you can actually record layers on top of that. So as you'll find out as we go through this, you can actually start to layer up tracks. So if I record 1 simple A minor chord, 2, 3, 4, I can layer up another leg. And again, I can layer up again. And again. And all of these are just constantly adding layers on top of that initial layer. So there's 2 key features there. You need to have a decent amount of recording time on it, and you need to be able to layer up. And that's bog standard. Pretty much every single looper you find, especially an individual looper pedal, will have that. Now, the last thing I want to say on this step is if you do have a pedal board, then it's important that you put the looper at the end of the board. So you can see here, okay, when I'm looking at my board, that my pedal is right at the end. So we're going from right to left over here. So my guitar goes in, it's going through all of these pedals, and then right at the end, it's coming out of the Ditto looper. And the reason for that is very simple. If I want to layer up some effects, so say for example on my second loop, I want to add some really heavy reverb to it, then the looper is actually going to be recording that loop with the reverb. If it came before that, then of course it's going to record before it hits the reverb pedal, so that when you go ahead and turn that reverb pedal off, there's no longer going to be the reverb on the loop. So the loop needs to be right at the end of the board. So step 2 is all about timing. And this goes back to what I was saying at the beginning. You've got very little time to practice, and within your kind of looping session, you're going to practice your rhythm almost more importantly than your lead player. When your aim is to play live or jam with mates or play in front of your family, you absolutely have to have the groove. So This simple exercise I'm going to show you now is how you're going to start to develop that. So when it comes to the looping, you really have to get used to the kind of tapping of the foot and hitting it on the one. Okay, so we're going to really simplify this for the moment. I'm just going to play like an A minor chord, okay? And you know, even if this bar chord is a bit too much for you, it can be an open A minor chord. It doesn't really matter. I'm just using an example, okay? And I want you to get used to counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, okay? That's super important because then when we connect the dots, when we in our mind or out loud say 1, our foot needs to go 1 and slam on that looper pedal, okay? So what I'll do is I'll show you kind of how I would do that. I'll do it well, and then I'll show you what happens if you don't do it well, essentially. So you can see as you kind of learn this and as you kind of get used to this, you'll see how we want to go from this not so good to this good, okay? So this is a good version. Now I'm going to do a super simple rhythm. I'm just going to do like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, and then I'm going to slam that looper. 1, 2, 3, and again 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. So you can see, because I counted that through and I really went for it out loud, you can see my foot was tapping, and then I grabbed that, you know, I hit that button absolutely on the 1, absolutely in time. We've got a seamless loop now. You can hear that, right? Now let's do it again. So I'm going to get rid of that loop and let's do it badly, okay? So if I had maybe a more complicated rhythm pattern. And then didn't count it. So I'm going to kind of go to this loop. Now have a listen to this. And we just kind of, we're stalling. So it's not, you can't hear that 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, you know? It's just not quite there. So the thing I didn't do in that instance was I didn't have my foot tapping and I wasn't counting out loud as I go through this. Now, as you get better at it, gradually, you don't have to always count out loud like that, but this is the first step. So that's what we're gonna practice. We're just gonna get a basic loop with the count out loud. Now, step number 3 is theory practice, okay? And this bit might sound maybe boring, but this is actually the most important part. Although I did say the last part was the most important part, so all the parts are the most important part. Let's go with that. But here, again, we're kind of actually putting music theory into very useful practice. And this is so important when it comes to jamming. Absolutely crucial, because this is something you're going to be doing on the fly during jamming sessions to be really creative, right? I'm not going to go through now the theory with you. We got lots of videos on that. But basically what we need is to take a basic scale. In this case, we're going to take the C major scale and harmonize it. So if you don't know how to do a harmonized C major scale, then do check out these videos. Okay, so we've got loads of these and you can go ahead and watch those after this video. So a C major harmonized scale looks like this, okay? And we just simply need to pick chords from that scale. So theory-wise, you'll have gone through this process. That's the beauty of it. You'll be like, okay, I'm gonna play in the key of C in this case. I'm gonna harmonize those chords. I've now got this set of 7 chords to pick from. What am I going to pick? Okay. And in this case, I'm going to pick the 2nd chord. Okay. Then I'm going to pick the 6th chord. Then I'm going to pick the 5th chord. And then I'm going to pick the root chord. Okay. So what that translates to in the key of C major is that D minor, the A minor, the G major, and then the C major. And that's as simple as we need to get started with our creativity. Then the point is to then put those chords in time. So going back to that 2nd step, getting the timing, but now with these chords. Okay, so let's keep it really simple for ourselves. I'm just going to do a very simple groove like this. 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. Now, don't have to copy that groove. You might just want to do something like this. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. You can even do that as open chords. So D minor. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then G. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. okay? Obviously, I've been looping a little bit longer, so I'm gonna do a slightly more intricate groove, but know where you are, acknowledge where you are right now. Where feels good for you to do? Are you already quite confident with your rhythm and therefore maybe give it a go, a slightly harder groove? If you think the rhythm is something you're gonna really struggle with, just go for that one change per bar, okay? But again, if we're gonna do it with the looper, let's get that foot tapping. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. And 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2. Hit the bar. 1, 2, 3, 4. There it is. 2, 2, 3, 4. And it's perfectly in time. Yes. Hallelujah. And you'll find, as you do that, quite quickly you'll hear if it starts to go out of time. So then, restart the looper and do it again. Typically, by the way, if you are looking to restart a looper, for a lot of them, certainly for this Ditto looper, you kind of double click and hold, and it will delete the loop, essentially. So we'll do it again. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2. Hit the loop on 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1. Yes, hit the loop on. Okay, good. So there we go. We got it in time. I'm just going to pause that for a second. So double hit that, and we paused our loop. All right. So we've now done 2 things. Well, we've done 3 things. We've got a looper. That's great. We've now managed to get ourselves in time, which obviously does take a bit of work. Okay, so don't worry if that's something that kind of holds you back first. Trust me, it does everyone. And now we've used a little bit of theory to now make sure that we've got the chords in time and we've got our basic loop. All right, step 4 is layering, okay? And this is something which I think is super fun, super exciting. Maybe it's just me, maybe I'm just geeking out super hard here, but really this is the caged concept coming to life, okay? So you may or may not have heard cage concept. Don't worry about it at all. If you want to learn about cage, and I'm not going to go into it all in this video, then we've got lots of videos on that you can check out after this video, of course. Now, basically, cage can be a thing which seems very theoretical, and how do I actually use this? And again, it is the most useful creativity tool that you can have, especially when you want to do that jamming session with your friends, with your dad band, even just for family. This is going to allow that kind of improvisational, let's go with that, mentality. Basically, I'm just going to take that loop that I've done already, which we can hear here. Okay. My 2, 6, 5, 1 loop, okay, in theory. And I'm going to start adding some cage versions of the chords on top of that, okay? So I'm going to deliberately move higher up the neck. And again, don't worry if you have no idea what I'm doing with the cage shapes here. Just go ahead and watch those cage videos afterwards and all will be revealed, all right? But basically, I've got a D minor, which I'm going to do higher up the neck, okay? In fact, let me just pause this for a sec. I've got a D minor, which I'm going to do higher up the neck. I'm going to do a nice G shape here, okay? Then I've got an A minor, which I'm going to do a D shape of here. Then I've got a G major, which I can do a shape here, a C. And then I've got a C major, which I can do here, this E shape. So I've got these higher end sounding chords. 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. And here you can have a little bit of fun with your other pedals. If you do have other pedals, kind of modulation or reverb or delays, you can start to create a kind of soundscape, if you like. So I'm just going to have a little tweak with my reverb. As you can see, I've got it set to Danverb, which is what I did as my just basic kind of room reverb. I'm just going to simply take the mix up really, really high. So now I've got this sound. This really kind of, I sound like I'm in a chamber almost. So if I start adding some of these sounds to my loop, we're going to start to build this soundscape. This is where it gets really fun. So here we go. Let's get that loop on. I'm going to practice it first. So there's my A minor, then my G, C, D minor, G, C. And now I'm going to get that loop on. I'll do it again. now you can hear I've got a bit more of a soundscape. It's a little bit more wishy-washy, a bit more lovely, maybe ethereal, you might say. And that's just a simple process of, you know, playing around a little bit with effects pedals and also knowing this cage system. So if there's ever an advert for knowing the cage, this is it. You know, it really gives you a lot more creativity. So we've now got a pretty solid loop, I'd say, but there's one more thing I want to go through with you that's going to really take it to another level. Okay, so step 5 is embellishments, okay? And here's where you can really go to town, depending on what you're practicing at the time. So it might be that you've gone through one of our Hendrix courses and you're practicing the Hendrix stuff and you want to start getting, you know, some of these kind of some of those kind of Hendrix embellishments over the top, or it might be that you're doing a little bit of funk and groove and you want to get a little bit of this kind of vibe over the top. Whatever it is, this is where we're going to have a chance to kind of really just bring this whole backing track to life. At the moment, we've got the core chords and some nice inversions of those chords, and now we're going to get even more creative. And what I'm going to do is actually, for you guys, I'm going to just do an embellishment, okay, using the pentatonic scale. I'm going to kind of come up with it on the spot, but then we'll, as I refine it on camera for you, you know, I want you to see the process, not just me, just be perfect. And then as we get something that I quite like, I'll then obviously loop that, and we'll give you the tab for that so you can see what that is if you just want to kind of use it as an example for yourself. So let's get that loop up. So I can pretty well feel the groove in that. So I'm just finding my groove, okay? So I'm just getting myself, you can see physically I'm just getting myself in that feel, okay? So to do that, just getting my body in there. Now I'm going to use the C major pentatonic. That's the scale shape I'm going to be using to now find a cool little rhythmical thing. So let's just try a few things. Let's keep going. Go. There's my little groove, okay? There's my little groove. I'm quite happy with that. It's a nice little bouncy thing. I was thinking kind of the Steve Lukather Thriller type, you know when you've got that just little bubble groove underneath the main kind of chords and everything else. It just gives you that little extra, okay? So now when I go to solo over this, I've got this really cool rhythmical idea as well that kind of helps me with that lead. And the cool thing there was I was just using that pentatonic scale. The whole thing, remember, is based in the key of C major, so I could use my C major pentatonic scale to kind of build this idea out. So now, I'm really happy with my loop. So there we go. I've got this amazing loop, and now I'm just gonna let that etherealness play. And this would be the point where I'll be like, right, I'm gonna now get my overdrive on and just start having some fun jamming over this. There we have it. So if you want to keep learning about this stuff and more, then click on the next video, which you can find here.